I'm Tony Sciarrotta, the Executive Director for the Reverse Logistics Association, now part of the National Retail Federation. And those of you who are here, you're going to hear some very valuable information about how you can make a difference at your company, because you're about to hear how big our industry is. And then I will let Sakni and Avi introduce themselves in a moment. So let's talk about why are we here. We are here because of this. 50 million metric tons of e-waste every year goes somewhere in the world besides our country. And the picture of the textiles can be seen from space because there's thousands of tons of clothes piled up in the desert in Chile. That's what returns look like if you're not doing the right thing. So we're here to help you be encouraged that there's opportunities here and we can make a difference. How big are the numbers? They're staggering. The return rate in the United States alone is somewhere up around 17%. That's like 1 out of every 5 packages or products that's sold is coming back. E-commerce is driving that. We'll talk about it in a moment. But 850 to 900 billion retail value. Let's make sure you're clear that it's the retail value, what it's sold for, not what it costs. So a lot of that stuff does end up back in the warehouse for inventory, but a lot of it goes unsold and winds up in the wrong place. That's the United States. This year, the RLA also focused on what's it look like in Europe. Well, Europe's catching up. Europe's catching up at 642 billion euro in returns. And the brick and mortar stores, similar to the United States, 8%. E-commerce return rates, that's where the returns have gone on steroids because it's free, it's easy, it's 25 to 40%. The most return category in Europe is identified as apparel and shoes. You can see the rates there. I will also add that countries like Germany and UK even have rates exceeding 50% for e-commerce. So that's the statistics. What can we do about it? Well, welcome to the circular economy, everyone. That's what we're going to focus on today for a little bit. And we're going to share some questions. But as I said, first off, I'm going to let Sakni and Avi introduce themselves and go at it. Here you go, Sakni.
Hi, I'm Sakni Leon, and I am part of Logitech. And I am responsible for reverse logistics, circularity operations, in global inbound, among other things. And I've been specifically working on reverse and circularity in the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years. So that's me.
Good afternoon, everybody. Avi Prakash from Walmart. I lead the product management / tech, basically the engine behind deciphering what to do with the returns that we get. And excited to share our experiences here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Avi. Thank you, Sakni. So the title of our session, if you saw it, is Cracking the Return Code, Profit Planet, and the Post-Purchase Experience. And the reason is we wind up in supply chain so much is this is where a lot of returns fall. And they're no longer just a cost center, but they're a strategic battleground, because the companies that do returns right are very successful. And returns, doing them right, is a lot of factors. How can you reduce them? How can you make sure they're sustainable? We're going to talk about customer experience. We're going to start out with talking about how does a company like Logitech and Walmart, and by the way, I love having a retailer and a manufacturer. My background is Philips, so I came at it from the manufacturer side as well. So it starts with us because we make the stuff, we manufacture it, we design it, as Sakni will talk about. But how does a company design the returns journey to protect the margins without sacrificing the customer loyalty? So Sakni, I'm going to let you take that one on first.
Yeah, so we know the products are going to come back. And the key is making sure that whatever disposition we do it with an end goal of a positive outcome. And so when you are in the world of circularity, is not all about making money. And so from our perspective, yes, we do liquidation. We do it very controlled, but we also do product donations. We also do material recovery. We also do repair, refurbishment. And so it really is building a really big amount of options for you to be able to do the right thing, to make sure that you're always keeping the brand as the most important thing and most valuable asset.
Just to add on to that, right? I think you protect your margins only when you're looking at Recommerce only in a silo. But I think if you look at Recommerce or returns in general, from an end-to-end supply chain perspective, the more easier it is for a person to return or more options they have, your top line increases too. So your margins are automatically taken care of. But I think if you just view only from, hey, I've got a return, what do I do with it? But approach like, okay, this is an inevitability that one has to live with. What can I do with it? I think that's a better approach for somebody to look at.
What I love about Sakni's comments as well is she looked at the slide maybe a little bit, and you can see that we talk about things in the circular economy, including donations, including refurbish and repair, including trade-in. Certainly the cellular industry knows about that one. And so the circular economy, reverse logistics is a cornerstone of the circular economy, there's no doubt. So as we talk more and more about it, we're really proud to listen to some of the sessions over the last 2 days. Gen Z people accept refurbished and previously loved. That's the term we're getting used to now. Pre-loved, if you're in the auto industry, it was certified pre-owned, and so people are beginning to accept that more and more. So we really have to talk about, can circularity and convenience coexist? And Avi, I'm going to let you do that one first, because we were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'd like to flip that question. I think it's almost a necessity, right? Like circularity is, without that, there is no supply chain, I would probably argue. The more easier it is for, and convenient it is for an item to be returned, the more easier, I mean, I'm sure, that, again, going back to the comment, your forward sales would probably increase a little bit too. Sakni, if you have anything to add?
So we understand that as things come back, we need to handle them properly, but we also need to make sure that as we're building products, we know that they would become part of the circular economy, whether it's within our control or outside of our control. And so how do you build that into the design of the product, making sure that you source the right materials, that you're thinking about somewhere around the world, somebody may want to repair instead of even sending it back to you. And so it's really looking at it from a reverse logistics standpoint, but also how do we enable other things outside of our existing network?
And to both of their points, it is about convenience of returns, making it easy. And sometimes manufacturers and retailers, and from Philip's view, sometimes it was just easier to say, we'll just take it back and not push back on the customer, because none of us want to lose a customer. But as we start to realize that taking these things back, we have to do something different with them instead of just throwing them away or putting them in landfills like the pictures showed, it makes you, as Sakni so well said, you design it different. You design it because you're thinking about the next person that's going to have it. And in the case of Walmart, of course, Avi, Walmart's now built an entire marketplace focused on that, right? And that's convenience and circularity living together. As we were talking about also, what do you do with the returns? There's different dispositions these days. We want to just make sure you're aware. As a manufacturer, as a retailer, you can decide to take everything back and send it to the vendor, the manufacturer. You can take things back, liquidate them. And some companies are choosing the model where the lower priced items, they're giving consumers credit. They're making that business decision. So there's a lot of different alternatives here, but the key also is connecting to the supply chain so that this stuff comes back the right way, best way possible, and doesn't travel across the country. give you the example. If you happen to be Peloton or one of the exercise equipment companies, and you sell to a customer from your factory in Utah to a customer in New York, you don't want that to come all the way back. So there's things developing like hyper-local, and that's where the supply chain companies, logistics companies are involved. Let's keep it in New York, find somebody to buy it there, instead of sending it all the way back to the factory. So there's all kinds of new avenues of ways to deal with this and make it work and make it circular. And Sakni and Avi, what we've also learned is that the survey suggests that the customer experience is a major differentiator. And what happens after the sale is important in terms of meeting the customer expectations and actually exceeding them, right? But it's clear that the data and the surveys say a lot of people return things because it's an unmet expectation somehow. One example is if you shop online, I think we all do, and you're looking at the picture of something and it shows up at your door, it may not feel like you thought it would feel. It may not look exactly like you thought it would on you. It may be many, many factors in that two-dimensional space of shopping. So customer expectations are not met. And in the case of Walmart, Avi, we're going to talk a little bit about the other side of the unmet expectations in terms of how the delivery process is and how the return process. So if you'll do that first, and then we'll come back to Sakni on that one.
Yeah, for me, in the reverse space, how to meet customer expectations is how easy is it for you to return an item, right? And then how in that, maybe a gap that we can fill to meet the expectation is also how easy is it for you to get your return, to your refund for the item that you return. Many a times, including myself, we've all faced an issue where, okay, you do return an item within the required window, but the promises are not probably kept, maybe because the item gets lost, or that's where tying it back to your larger supply chain and putting those right triggers in would help. For example, if you're just returning a small item less than $5, many a times we probably have opportunities to say, okay, is it even worth ingesting that $5 in our supply chain? And then, instantly credit it, have the product to keep it. But we kind of lose sight of it and have those products ingesting sometimes. So basically the logic or some of the rule systems that go behind, those are some improvements we can make, at least from a product perspective, to help those.
Right.
And maybe help bridge that gap of the unmet expectations on the forward logistics, at least to help improve their returns experience.
And Sakni, I'm going to give the mic over to you because as a manufacturer, you have to think about it at that design creation level. So how do you focus on exceeding customer expectations from that perspective?
So for me, anything we do on the reverse side and circularity, all that feedback gets fed back into product design. Because we know why the customers returned the product, in what condition the product came back. And of course, us as manufacturers, we need to put a lot of attention on the material that we provide our partners, like Walmart, on what to publish on the website, be as explicit as possible. Now, especially with so many versions of products, how do you know which version that you have? How do you know that you're buying the correct one? And so it really starts with the information that people can make an educated decision on their purchase. And then when it comes back is learn from that so that then you can try to avoid that return later if at all possible. I think a lot of the return reasons today is price, right? So I found it somewhere else and it's cheaper. And so we also try try before you buy, where people can try the product and then decide. So from our own returns, we send them a refurbished unit. They try it. If they want it, then they can buy a new one. But at least we're giving them the choice to test the product before. But customer behavior is customer behavior. And when returns are so easy, then we kind of also drive the bad behavior.
And to Sakni's point, we learned this the hard way at Philips too. It's also about things as simple as the instructions. Open up the package, and people better be able to use stuff. No one wants to read instruction books in 12 languages anymore. Nobody wants to tear apart clamshells. Remember clamshells? We don't do those anymore because a lot of people wind up in a hospital cutting their fingers. So that's all about exceeding customer expectations, is make sure it's easy to use, incredibly easy to use. Another horrible example of living in the United States is that if you make the instructions not simple enough, readability in the United States, the average readability age is like the 6th grade level. So if you make instructions that a high schooler should read, good luck with that. And Sakni's smiling because she knows she's heard this before. We have to make it simple so that you exceed their expectations. And then other ways to exceed expectations on the e-commerce side is make cool things happen. I ordered something as simple as vinyl record covers, okay? A big pack of 100 of them. I wanted all my records in a vinyl. And that sounds silly, record albums, not all of you know them, but they sent along a 45 record inside the package. It happened to be Patsy Cline. I like Patsy Cline. And I'm like, wow, this is so freaking cool. So these are ways you make people excited and about it, and then they talk about it at conferences. So it's all about that customer expectation, and surprise them. And you'll always remember and talk about the companies that surprise you somehow. So that's an important focus. And to the point of saying that it's unmet expectations, think about the fact that somewhere north of 95% of the products that come back, there's nothing wrong with them. That's horrendous. Now, it's really good for truckers. They're moving a lot of boxes that, there's nothing wrong with them. But the logistics companies that are getting engaged are helping to recognize, let's keep it local again, and let's do something to disposition it locally, or let's make up pallets of things like Walmart does and Amazon and sell them locally to bin stores, to all kinds of new channels. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Because most companies, certainly Walmart has a secondary marketplace, but so much, Sakni, I don't remember if you've done that online yet or not. You're, okay, she's smiling. So in the secondary marketplace, again, 15, 20 years ago, manufacturers didn't sell the return goods, nor did retailers. And so that's changed dramatically. And Sakni, I'm going to come to you first this time and talk about what remarketing sales channels are you using that you're finding works well, and what have you seen in the last couple of years that has been an exciting channel to put your product into?
I think first, we now have a refurbished outlet store on our own website, and it's very successful in the U.S. and in Europe. We also work with eBay. eBay is a place where people go and look for refurbished products. We also work in Walmart Marketplace, and so depending on the country, depending on the product selection, there are different ways that you can go about it, making sure that you are in the right place. As you mentioned, new generations are more conscious about their purchases, and so we're seeing a very important uptake in the amount of interest on refurbished products that we have.
I mean, we have in our marketplace, we have refurbished items, I think. I don't know the exact figure, but I know they do a lot of movement there. But also, from a personal experience, I think Facebook Marketplace has been a gold mine that people don't talk about. I think, at least for me personally, that's the first place that I go to kind of, irrespective. I know the grading quality of what's being, the condition of that sometimes is questionable, but at least to kind of get an idea of what's the top line of the price that you can get an item. Right. That seems to be the index that refurbished items can get sold for.
Absolutely, and those of you who are looking for new channels, and again, this is where the logistics companies can participate, because neither Avi nor Sakni want the product back to their buildings. If it can stay out in the field and it can be sold online from there, then it's a direct fulfillment, and it certainly cuts down on costs. Avi's point, eBay is largest in the United States in the secondary market sales, But I was also surprised, Avi, to learn Facebook Marketplace is like close to number 2, if not number 2. And certainly in the case of large, bulky items, which we don't have here, but you're not going to sell a range or a refrigerator, larger products through eBay. Those don't ship very well. But it is an exciting new marketplace that everyone's exploring now. And again, you go back 15 years and nobody was doing this. Kind of wanted to just touch base also on any innovation or technology solutions that have worked for you lately. Avi, I know you've got a couple of them. We'll let Sakni weigh in.
Yeah, so the biggest, where technology innovation that we have, I know it might be some basics at this point in time. The biggest fraud items that we see is in electronics. And we have a sophisticated serial number verification that kind of ties that up to our forward fulfillment. I know as rudimentary as it might sound, but that's a big adherence. That's our biggest checkpoint. I know some of our tech partners, we were having some conversation. There's some specific technologies out there to kind of maybe look at cracks on the amount of cracks on the screen or anything in the electronic space, if you will, that can help you grade an item much quicker and help disposition it much faster. So that's what we found specifically, especially in the fraud area.
Sakni?
For us, I think for AI has been playing a role in the way that we approach the secondary market, as well as the way that we develop the processes for refurbishment, making sure that we scrub all the feedback from users in areas that we need to focus on. I think on the reverse side, there's still a lot of room for innovation as far as like image recognition, serial number verification. At least for products, sometimes the serial numbers are extremely hard to actually see on the hardware, and we don't get the returns every one of the returns in the box. And so it's also a very big challenge. So I'm very hopeful that now with the attention of how big returns is turning out to be, that there will be a lot more innovation in our space.
As we wrap up, I want to make sure you know, walking away, that 850 to 900 billion in returns represents an opportunity for every company here. Last mile delivery should have last mile returns as part of their program that they're offering to everybody. So that's very important to focus on that. There's great opportunities working with manufacturers who want to take the stuff back but don't want it to go all the way back to their facilities, and then using refurbished product and hyper-local opportunities are being created. We're about to wrap up here. I don't know that we have time for questions, but we wanted to make sure that we bring a little bit of light to this dark side of the industry because it's important. It's a big number, and every one of these companies, every vendor here, every partner, every supplier can help. Walmart, Amazon, Logitech, Philips, every kind of company out there, we need to figure out how to deal with returns better. So if you would, a round of applause for Avi and Sakni, and thank them very much for their help.